Welcome back to Workshop Wednesday. I'm Chelsea Blissmeyer. Thanks for joining me in my workshop today. You might notice I'm wearing a toque. Now, this toque, my sister knitted for me for Christmas last year, and I absolutely love it. I love the color. I love that it's made out of 100% wool. It is literally so warm. I've dubbed it my hot head toque because it literally keeps my head so warm. And I'm also really stoked because it doesn't scratch my forehead. Usually I can't wear wool anywhere else than my feet, but apparently I can do it on my head. And yeah, my forehead is feeling all right in here. But the problem is it's just a little bit big. It's a little deep and it's a little bit loose. And it just always slides down over my eyes and I can't see a thing. So I thought, you know what? Let's look at how we can add a band. So I'm going to add this elastic band on the inside of the toque. I'm going to stitch it in by hand because I don't want any stitches coming through on the outside, and I want to make sure that I use a stitch that's going to be stretchy so I can easily get the toque on, and I can have this band a little bit smaller so it can shrink up the edge and hold my toque in place so it's not sliding around anymore. Now the first thing we need to decide is how long does our elastic need to be? So for that, I'm going to just take it off and wrap this elastic right around my head. Now, I get migraines way too often and struggle just in general with headaches. So I don't want this band to be too tight at all. It shouldn't be restricting or add pressure to my head, but I don't want my toque to be sliding around. So I'm going to just let it overlap here about an inch and have just a really nice amount of pressure, soft amount of pressure, let's use that term. I've chosen this elastic because it's wider, so it's going to give me a little bit more support. The other thing I love about this elastic is it has a really soft feel to it, so it's not going to be scratchy or irritating for my head, and it has a really nice stretch. It has that elasticity to really snap it back into place, but it has a really soft stretch, so it stretches easily. So I think this will be nice for, yeah, just putting the toque on. So I think this will be a really great kind of combination of all of the different properties that I'm looking for to make this toque what I want it to be. So I've gathered everything I need. I've got my thread, my needle. I've actually already stitched this elastic together, so it's already in a circle. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just mark it here with my purple pen. I love these purple pens. There we go. So I'm going to mark it in quarters. So I'm just going to put a mark here. So if this is half, right by where I have my overlap, and then I'm just going to match those two up. So the reason I'm doing this is I want to make sure that when I attach the elastic, I'm stretching it the same amount all the way around. So because this elastic is a little bit smaller than the actual hat to shrink it in, I want to ease the hat on evenly all the way around. So I think I'm going to try this first. I'm going to just turn it inside out. And then I'm also going to just mark it in quarters here, but I'm going to add pins. The purple pen doesn't really mark well on the toque, so I'm just going to put a pin here, and then we'll put those two pins together. Then I can find my quarters easily. Okay. I'm just going to stretch this elastic over top. I think this will kind of help me ease that hat together, kind of shrink it up, because it's kind of the right-left band here. It automatically kind of wants to shrink in when I put this elastic around. And then I'm just going to get my pins in place so that I have a nice even finish. You can see I'm also sliding the elastic in just a tiny little bit farther than the edge so that my white elastic isn't going to be peeking out past the edge. So because I'm stitching this by hand, and I'm going to do kind of a zigzag hand stitch, I don't need to pre-stretch the elastic because my stitches will still allow the elastic to stretch when I put the toque on. So that is looking really nice, just shrinking that edge in. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a really long thread. So the reason I want a really long thread is because my stitches are going to use a lot of thread. So this will help me just not need to get a new thread as often. And I also want to fold it in half. See, this is my edge where I folded it. And I'm just going to pull it through so that I have actually four threads together. That way I have a nice sturdy hold, because I only want to go around the hat once. So I want this to really stay in place and be secure. I'm just going to knot it and then get started. So I'm just going to start at one edge. The nice thing about this wool is it's really, really fluffy. So my stitches are just going to hide really nicely in there. Just going to knot it real quick together with the elastic and the hat, because I'm assuming this would pull out really easy. So how I'm going to do these stitches back and forth is I'm going to stitch down into my toque. I've picked kind of a color that blends well with most of the colors in this toque, and I'm just going to do a long stitch kind of diagonally through the toque over to the other edge. Now, if you're joining me from somewhere else in the world other than Canada, you might be wondering why I keep calling this a toque. Well, that's what we call hats here in Canada. So, yeah. Now, if you didn't know where I was located, now you do. And here we go again. I'm just feeding the needle through underneath in the wool, not showing on the outside, and over to the far side. So you can kind of see how the thread is zigzagging already, and that will allow me to stretch even though the edge is nice and secure. I can also kind of hold my finger underneath so that I can feel how far my needle is poking through and be sure that I'm not going to have a big piece of gray thread running along the outside of my toque. I'm just looping around kind of back each time I stick it back into the toque as well, so that my stitch is more secure. Kind of almost like doing a little mini back stitch. So now that I have a few done, I'm just going to check the hold. Has a nice stretch to it. You can see here that my stitches are quite far apart. So I just want to make sure that this edge feels like it's nice and sturdy and in place. I think that'll be perfectly fine. I could shorten up my stitches so that they don't zigzag so far apart, and that would still allow for stretch. It would just mean that it's going to take a lot longer to get around the toque. So that's why I'm just trying it out with this longer length first to see if the hold will be sufficient this way. So I've made it the first quarter around. I've made it to my second needle, and I've also run out of thread. This does use quite a bit of thread, so it's a good thing I did such a long one to start out with. Just gonna knot it off here, rethread my needle, and keep going. Okay, so I've come all the way around. I'm just gonna knot this end, tie it off. I can already feel like that the edge is a little more sturdy, stable. It's kind of shrunk in, which is exactly what I want it to be. You can even see in the profile here that it just dips in a little bit more. So let's flip it around. See what it looks like. Looking good. Don't have any out of place gray stitches on the outside, so that's perfect. It has some good stretch to it and elasticity, so it shrinks back the way I want it to. That stitch worked out really well to provide the stability that I need in the band, but also give me the movement and stretch that I also need. Much more sturdy. Definitely not too tight, so that's good. Not feeling constricting on my forehead. Side view. So there you go. I'm so excited to wear this now. I'm going to actually run right now and go pick up my kiddos from preschool. And I look forward to sewing along with you next time. And I love this project in that it was just a great example of how you align your sewing variables. So what is your desired result? What do you want from your project? And what stitches do you need to use? What elastic might you want to use? And how might you want to just align all of those little pieces of your project that you can choose and adjust to create the result that you really want at the end of your project. So that really does bring us to the end now. I do hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week on Workshop Wednesday.